Cool FM live from City Hall here in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Joining me right now is Assistant City Manager Victoria Yarborough. Victoria, thank you for joining me today. Good afternoon. Or is it still morning yet? Afternoon? Either way, welcome.
Thank you, Todd. I'm happy to be here.
Well, the reason why we brought you on Cool FM Live today is during the last week there's been some controversy, and it all started with a post on Chit Sierra Vista about donations made to the animal shelter, the Nancy J. Brua Animal Care Center in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And some felt that maybe some of the donations were misused, or the city money that was donated and then pulled back should have stayed in the project. Why don't you let's just start fresh here from the very beginning and tell folks what the situation is from the start here on this whole thing from the city's perspective.
Sure, thanks, Todd. So this story actually goes back to about 2021 when we first started planning for an expansion of the animal shelter. We did a master plan to plan out all future phases of the animal shelter. So that year we were notified that we received a $1.2 million donation to go towards the shelter. And so City Council that year, taking that donation and then $800,000 from the city's capital improvement fund, planned for a $2 million expansion at the shelter, or approximately phase one. So the following year, city found out that that $1.2 million donation was actually only a fraction of that amount, and the total amount the city would receive that year ended up being less than $10,000. So City Council at that point decided to make the hold true to the $2 million project and budgeted the full $2 million out of the city's capital improvement fund to move forward with phase one. So fast forward, it takes a little bit of time to design building expansions. So by fiscal year 25, which is the fiscal year we're currently in, last spring in July of 2024, City Council adopted the final budget, which had the $2 million phase one expansion project in it. And I think it was the day after the final budget was approved, we were notified of a second very generous $1 million donation that was stipulated to go towards construction at the animal shelter. So the decision was made that money was stipulated for construction and went towards construction. The $2 million that was budgeted, $1 million of that budget would go back into the capital improvement fund, and then council would get to make the decision on how to use that $1 million the following year. They're taxpayer funds, there's a lot of other needs, and ultimately that's a decision that City Council should make on how that money is spent.
Okay. So basically right now that's the situation there, and as far as citizens, if they still want to move forward with continuous construction or improvements at the shelter, they still can do that, and the city council can still do that because the money is still available. It's just the city council has to decide what to do with that money next, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And council can absolutely choose to continue expanding the shelter and moving on with phase two. We were actually able to fit a significant portion of phase two into the current construction. One of the important parts of phase two that wasn't initially included in the project was adding shade over the exterior dog kennels, and that cost right under $240,000. We also added epoxy flooring and paint. So overall, the city put another $250,000 into this expansion to cover part of phase two. What didn't get included was what we call a puppy building. And so there was a small building intended to be built in the courtyard for just under 300 square feet, block wall, metal roofing, and the initial cost on that was estimated at $600,000. So it's a significant cost, and we'd like to go out and get some additional quotes on that so council has the knowledge of whether this relatively small building really costs $600,000 or if there's a better price. So they have that information going into the budget next year when they can absolutely choose to expand the shelter and continue with phase two with that money that went back into the capital improvement fund if they want to.
Okay, all right. And let's move along here to the golf course as well too. You had something you wanted to mention about the golf course in regards to things too as well.
Yeah, I know there's some comments out there on the $1 million and the golf course, and so back in April, May of 2024, the council did have indication that the city might be approached about taking over the golf course, and we didn't know what that would look like at the time. And so the city set aside $1 million in the budget for 2025 that was marked special project. And so that is the money that has been used for the golf course and the golf course improvements on the driving range. So that was an entirely separate $1 million.
Okay, so that's good clarification there. That has nothing to do with the Nancy J. Brua Animal Care Center expansion as well there too. So, all right. Well, all right. This is good information. Again, this is why we brought you on. We wanted to clarify some things with folks because they had questions and some assumptions went rampant as well too. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close today? This interview.
I don't think so, Todd. I mean, at the end of the day, these dollars belong to the taxpayers. There are many needs throughout the community. We have things like new parks. We have a potential expansion of our fire department. Our streets need more investment. So there's always need out there. There's always a limited amount of dollars to put towards those needs. So they will all be considered, and council will decide for next budget.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, Assistant City Manager Victoria Yarborough, for joining us today. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet.